this is going to be take one of replacing a controller on a Superhuman Champ motorcycle. This is Tom's garage here. Hopefully we can get this done. Here, real quick unboxing of the controller. All wires have their connections, so there's no direct wiring other than if we get to the motor point. We would be connecting that if we have to replace the motor, but they're going to tell me from a diagnostic standpoint, we're going to try to replace just the controller first and see if that remedies. I have no power to the bike, the lights, nothing. So we're suspecting the controller, but it could be in the motor as well. So I've already loosened this panel here, which is 2 screws on opposing sides here that allows this thing to fold down. I'm hoping that's going to leave me enough room and I don't have to take some of these side panels apart or maybe remove this circuit breaker switch. The only other thing that I have apart at this point is the bottom skid plate. And of course I pulled the battery so that we don't have any electric connections going on. So when I take the next component off, I will be back. Okay, I know that said take one on the first part, but I wanted to start with the bike together so you know exactly what pieces to take off. All pieces will come off with the kit that was included with your bike, except for you're gonna need a 17 millimeter to loosen that for the motor. Everything else for the most part, except for the motor bolts down here as well, you're going to need a 15 millimeter for that, which is not included in the kit. And you'll need a bigger ratchet for that as well. So let's start. First off, I removed the battery. That's number one. It's underneath toolkit. And then you're going to come up here. First thing you're going to remove is these 2 bolts and get this top cover off. And when you pull this top cover off, you're going to have a little wire with a connector right there to the USB port that you don't want to rip off. Then you're going to want to come down here to give yourself a little room. Very simple, 3 bolts, take off that fender. Just get it out of your way. And then come down here, take your skid plate. This is Torx wrenches in your kit. 1 bolt, 2 bolt, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that will drop the skid plate off. Then, and you'll see this in the first video I mentioned already, which is this tray. There's a bolt over here and a bolt here from the outside, and that tray will come down. I did take the breaker box apart and slid it just so I could manage the wires better, so I'll leave that up to you. But those are all the components that need to come off to start the process, which I will get into next. So to take this little cover off the front, to expose the screws, there's a very tiny screw on each side. See, one there, one there. For the very next step, I disconnected this cable here because I've now got the cover off of that controller to get access to all of the direct wires going to it. But I'm also going to unscrew this breaker box, that switch, the main switch, just to get it out of the way. The second unplugging I'm going to do coming directly off the controller are this dual plug right here. So I'm going to start disconnecting these bolts. There's only 1 bolt, which is this one down here, that has 2 wires that you have to remember with end loops on them. The other ones are blue, green, red, which also has 2 wires coming off of it, as you can see, or orange. And then yellow is your direct yellow cable. So orange to orange, but there is a black cable that comes down here that you need to reconnect. And then with the other clips I've taken off, that's pretty much everything that's held onto the controller. These bolts are all going to be a 10 millimeter wrench. What I'm going to do while I'm taking these off, you see the red and black wire I mentioned was attached to 1 terminal. I am going to zip tie them together. And that's for people like myself that have a poor memory. It's a good idea, zip tie them together. That's when you put it back together, you're going to make sure both of those get attached to their appropriate terminal. Okay, a little catch up here on the video. I did have to remove the motor, which, to give you guys information, is 3 bolts and a frame bolt holder here that cradles the motor. Pretty simple on that end. On the back, you've got to loosen the main bolt here for your chain sprocket and then get them all the way retracted so you can move the chain up to release it off the sprocket, which is not a big deal. But the reason I didn't just change the controller is when I got to the controller, it had a different pigtail going to the motor. So it obviously wasn't going to fit without replacing the motor. This is the old pigtail. This is the new. Obviously, I would have to take those, 13 wires and strip them and splice them together, which I wasn't going to do. So we're going to go with the new motor and set up and see if that cures my power problem. I'm going to install the motor. I'll take another film there. I haven't decided whether I'm going to replace the whole wiring harness. Right now, I don't see a need to do that, but we're going to find out. Okay, now I've got the motor bolted back in. The chain tensioner and bolt through the center of the wheel has been tightened. I just need to put this cover on, which you can see there's 2 screws. That kind of came off first. I might have skipped that at the beginning. Goes on these 2 little threaded rails. And then that'll be out of your way. I'm going to be putting that back on. The motor's in. The new controller is in. I bolted my circuit breaker back up. Best advice, it's not a really hard job here, but it's all about wire management. Try to overlap your wires so that you're not squishing things to the side. There's a lot going on in there. The more you can keep things free when you're closing this door and putting your skid plate on, that you're not crushing any of these connectors, the better off you're going to be in the long term. So I'll do one final take when I get everything buttoned up, and we'll give it a start. Okay, everything is finished. Battery's in it, buttoned up. We're ready for our first test. I turned the breaker on already. We're going to turn the key, and it gives it its beep. I'm already in economy. Looks like everything's going to power up just fine. I'm going to lean the bike over so I've got the wheel off the ground. And we are now back functioning. That is how you change a controller and motor on a Champ Superman dirt bike. If you want to reach out to me, any comments, please subscribe. That would be great. And I hope this helps anybody because there is no instruction book for this.